Dirty Girls. It is Training Tuesday, and we are here tonight with a topic that I really love. I really love this topic. I think I love the topic because it's juicy. There's a lot of meat behind this, and it's also a tough one. It is one that I work on with women a lot because there isn't a quick fix to this. So I know this is a Training Tuesday, and our trainings on Training Tuesday tend to be a little shorter. And by shorter, I mean we try to keep them around 30 minutes. I'm going to warn you now, I may go a little over tonight because this is such a rich topic. But this isn't a let me give you 3 sentences you can say they're going to fix all the problems, right? Tonight's topic is how do we speak up, and how do we speak up with confidence even when we don't want to, even when we're feeling ugh to not want to use my voice right now, right? So how do we speak up anyway? And there is a solution. There's a 3 steps I think I'm going to give you, or 4 steps I'm going to give you around this. But there's really a piece we need to do around our mindset if we're going to be successful. And so the rest of the steps won't matter if we can't start wrapping our brains around the why. So I am excited about tonight's topic. Now I will start, and I'll try to remember to say this again at the end too. The number one topic, when we did the poll last week, so I polled you guys, thank you all for participating in the poll. When we did the poll last week around what topics you'd like, the number one topic was actually around boundaries and work-life balance. So this topic was number 2. I'm going to do a workshop on boundaries and work-life balance. As I started looking at that topic, like there's just so much more there to do and to dig into. So I haven't picked the exact date yet, but look for it in 2 to 3 weeks. I will let you guys know, but what we'll actually do is a workshop. So it will be more interactive than a typical master class when we do that workshop. So stay tuned for that. Topic number 2 though was tonight's topic, which is how do I confidently speak up when I really don't want to? So yay, hey ladies, it's good to see you all. I see Christine. Hey Christine, it's good to see you. I hope you're feeling better. And Jordana, hey lovely lady. Joyce, Justine, Jackie, it's good to see everybody. Awesome. So as always, yes, say hello in the chat. If you don't know each other, some of you are here most Tuesdays, so you do kind of know each other. But if you don't, say hi, tell us where you're from. And thanks for being here on what is going to be a really rich topic tonight. As always, I am Natalie Hahn, CEO of Dirty Girls Consulting and your host for Training Tuesday. And tonight, I also wanted to mention the McKinsey report. McKinsey and Lean In do a study every year about women in the workplace, and that report came out today. And I haven't had a chance to dig into it yet. And usually I do dig into that report every year and kind of mine some of the information around what are the issues that are really facing women in the workplace. And I love the fact that they do this every year. I'll tell you point blank, I was not a fan of the book Lean In. It's not that I'm a huge Sheryl Sandberg fan, and I did not love her book, but the work that Lean In is doing with McKinsey in terms of really publishing and pushing out their issues in the workplace for women, particularly issues in the workplace for women of color, they don't shy away from that. I think that's really important work, and the more we can shine a light on it, the more we can deal with it and change things moving forward. So some of the stats that they talk about, and the stats I have today are from different studies. They're not from the McKinsey study. So I will use the newer data from the McKinsey study as I get through it. But today, and some of you may have seen this in the Facebook post that I put, but 45% of business leaders, women who are business leaders, say it is hard for them to speak up. That's half of women leaders still feel uncomfortable speaking up, which to me is highly problematic. 80% of women experience microaggressions. 80%. Now, I'm actually a little bit surprised that number's not higher, given microaggressions are sort of the nouveau passive-aggressive attack. Microaggressions are those moments, those incidents. It's a word, it's a phrase, it's a look, it's a situation that's in passing, right? They're called microaggressions because they're short, quick interaction of some kind where there is there's an undercurrent of hostility basically to it, and we tend to excuse them. We tend to either ignore them or excuse them because they're so small it's not a big deal. Or they're having a bad day, they didn't mean it that way. Like we rationalize them. Or because they're so small and in passing, we just ignore it and excuse it and we go on. But they're constant. And what happens if you work in an environment where these microaggressions are coming at you on a regular basis, really does erode at you. It really does chip away at you and how you feel about your coworkers, about your work environment, and sometimes even about yourself. 21% of women feel ignored at work. Just ignored. Doesn't matter if I speak up, why bother? Because they're not listening. And there's an over 30% chance that you will be interrupted by a man. Over 30% of us will be interrupted by a man, yes. And so I see Anna has joined us, and Jill, hey ladies, Christine, microaggressions for men and other women, absolutely. Yeah, microaggressions are not a gender specific thing at all. Women experience them, and if you remember my training on queen bees, women who bully other women, women are more often the bully of other women. Like, we're horrible to each other. It's really what it comes down to. Women bullies are worse bullies than men bullies towards other women. Yeah, exactly, Joyce. Or we excuse it as, I'm the one having a bad day. I just misunderstood them. I took it wrong. I'm being too sensitive, right? Microaggressions are a huge topic. And the challenge with microaggressions is exactly that. Is like they are so small and they can be subtle and a quick undercurrent that they are very easy to ignore. And only when they pile up do we start to feel it. And by then, when we start adding up the examples together, we then start feeling like, am I being petty? Right? So it's a tricky topic, but it really just comes down to respectful and professional behavior. So that's like the situation from a statistical standpoint. But really, why don't we speak up? And I would love for you ladies to tell me in the chat, as we're thinking about this topic of how to speak up confidently when I really don't want to, where does that really don't want to come from? If you're willing to share in the chat, like, why don't you want to speak up in a meeting? Or why don't you want to use your voice? Even if it's not a meeting, what if it's a one-on-one conversation? What is it that holds you back? I'm going to tell you how some of the things that I interpreted it as and what I certainly have seen and experienced, but I want to be sure we address kind of your specific concerns too. As you know, I like this to be as interactive as we can. So, yeah, you're exactly right, Jackie. With those microaggressions, you cannot change them. You cannot change the people slinging the arrows. You can only change your response to it. And the one thing you want to do is protect yourself, right, from those arrows so that it doesn't erode at you over time. So that when you can recognize it for what it is, you can also push it away for what it is. So Jill, because we're shamed, yeah, we don't speak up often because we feel shamed, and we're worried about the shame. Why? Because we're worried about being judged. Will I look stupid? Will they think I'm not prepared? Will they think I should have known this already? And the hard part is, that's the talk track we give ourselves before we say anything. Some of that shame also may come from past experience, right? Oh, I spoke up in the meeting 3 weeks ago and he was a jerk in his answer, or he was flippant. Or maybe not even this job. I spoke up 2 years ago in a meeting and I got such a horrible response and I was so embarrassed that I'm never speaking up again. We carry that baggage with us. So there could be historical reasons, like it's happened before, it might happen again. Interesting, Jackie. Yeah, the responsibility that shouldn't fall to me to stand up for others, or just stand up on me to stand up to others. I think to others and for others, because the interesting thing is, yes, standing up to others, especially if we feel like we're the lone voice in the room, can be incredibly difficult. And we're like, where is everybody else on this? I thought we were all in agreement. If we're standing up for others, if there's an underdog in the story, women in particular, we have a much easier time using our voice if it's not for our own benefit. Think about that. If it is not for our own benefit, we have a much easier time using our voice. Think about it. For those of you who have kids, we will fight anybody for our kids. But if somebody insults my kid, I am all over them. If they insult me, oh, they're having a bad day. I'm having a bad day, right? We let it pass. Anna says, feel the information may not be valued. Yeah, exactly. They don't listen. They don't pay attention. You know, so they're going to ignore what I say. They're not going to value at all the information that I'm sharing. Reputation, yeah. Then if they do think I'm dumb, what if they do? What if I say something and it's wrong? And now I look stupid and everybody's going to be talking about it. We will also avoid conversations that are difficult. What if, to Jackie's point, what if I have to stand up to somebody? I don't want to be perceived as mean. I don't want to be perceived as uncooperative. I don't want to be perceived as challenging or even defensive or difficult. Yeah, Jill, there's some truth to that. Men do a better job of supporting and protecting other men. I would say supporting for sure. I'm not so much protecting, but definitely supporting. And women don't support and validate each other. And I think that's largely true. There's with women in the workplace, especially if women are in the minority in the workplace, we get this competitive thing going on. And this is why I've done that. And if any of you are interested in the training I did on women bullies in the workplace, because it's a real thing. The queen bee is a woman who's a bully in the workplace, and she typically bullies other women. That's a real thing. And that's a threat thing. That's an insecurity thing, but it's very common, unfortunately. So if anybody's interested in that training, I'm happy to go back and pull that one up. Drop the word queen in the comments and I'll find that one for you and share that. But yeah, women, because of our insecurity of, oh, holy cow, there's only 2 of us in this room full of 10 men and I've got to stand out. And we get a little bit of the scarcity factor and we tend to fight for ourselves. We get in this defensive mode of me. I'm going to fight for me because no one else will. And at that point, we don't even think so much about the gender piece. If we're in the defensive mode, we're not always thinking that we're attacking the other woman as much as we're just thinking we're defending ourselves. It's not an excuse for it, but that's what it is. And I see the queens there, ladies, so I will, after this, find that training for you. We will also avoid speaking up in the case of sexual harassment, right? We don't use our voice oftentimes if we feel we're being sexually harassed for the shame factor, for they'll talk about me, it's embarrassing. We might be the ones typecast as a troublemaker. Unfortunately, that's still a very real thing these days. We will avoid speaking up if we think that the receiver is going to, one of my favorite words, mansplain us. Because there's a thing with mansplaining that not only when they do that are they patronizing, right, and talking down to us, but usually in the same breath, they're taking our idea and they're making it a very good idea, but they're making it theirs, which I discovered a new word. Write this down. Bropropriating. I came across that this week. I actually had never heard the word bropropriating, but I love that word. A man steals your idea, takes credit for the idea. And if you guys have attended any of my previous master classes, I have a story. Like, this was literally pivotal in my career where I had gone to a meeting and had shared an idea and they all ignored it, literally just ignored it. I got yeah, Natalie, it's not a big deal. You know, that's not the right way to go. That's not the direction we should go. And like 3 months later, the guy who had been sitting next to me at that meeting throws out the same idea and suddenly it's a brilliant strategy. And I was like, did they not hear me? We're 3 months behind now because they didn't listen to me. Bropropriating. It's a real thing. Yeah. So when you think about that, right, think about the historical baggage that we have about having been shamed before or having been put down before, and the fear we have of being ignored or of being shamed or of thinking that we're stupid or we're not prepared. I mean, all these things that we've been talking about. No wonder we don't speak up. And I'm going to throw one last stat at you, and then I promise you we're going to start talking about more positive things. But I wanted to lay the groundwork that there are real reasons, like real reasons why we don't speak up. It's not just because we're all a bunch of insecure women, right? Which is how I think overall the workplace, and especially men because they don't get it, like that's how they see it on the surface level, but that's not what it is. So 3 years ago, I think it was 3 years ago, Dr. Victoria Breskel did this study because she was trying to figure out, like, what is this discrepancy? Why aren't there as many women CEOs? Why are the ratings different? Like, what is going on here with women leadership? So she did this study where she took a group of men and women, and their role in the study was to evaluate the competency of a CEO. So there's a baseline of here's a good CEO. And they had a male CEO and a female CEO, and they gave them a situation, and the male CEO took the situation, voiced his opinion, and was evaluated. Female CEO takes the same situation, gives the exact same opinion, and is evaluated. Now, when you take that baseline of here's a good CEO, when the male CEO voiced his opinion of that situation, he rose 10 points. His score went 10 points up in, oh, he's a good CEO, very competent. When the female CEO voiced her opinion, exact same opinion, she went down 14 points. How does that happen? What explains this except gender perception? Right? That is, I was going to say disappointing, but that doesn't even go deep enough, does it? For the perception of men and women in leadership in the workplace, we start at a disadvantage. And that is one of the reasons why, even when we don't want to, we have to speak up. We have to speak up. What happens if you don't? What happens if you don't speak up? And share in the chat with me what's been happening with you. If you have not been speaking up, what has that done? How has that impacted you or your career? Right? Because that's what happens. It does impact our career. How do you feel when that moment has passed and you haven't used your voice? Do you feel relief? Thank God I didn't say anything? Most of the women I work with feel regret. I should have said something. I knew it. Should have spoken up. Christine. People can be mean. People can be mean. And we're not rational. Yeah, I hear that one a lot. I hear not only do I wish I spoke up, I wish someone had said something. I wish someone had spoken up. When we don't use our voice and speak up, we perpetuate that pattern of frustration and resentment that we have at work. We continue the pattern and we keep grinding at it, right? We keep digging into that same pattern of not being seen, of not being heard, of feeling like we're not being recognized, our contributions aren't being acknowledged, that no one knows what we can really do. Nobody knows how smart we really are, how creative we really are. When we don't speak up, we limit our own upward mobility. Nobody knows what we're doing. Nobody does know how we think. We do not get invited to the table. There's no leadership when we're not speaking up. And typically, to compensate for not speaking up, what do we do? What do we do to compensate for not using our voice? We work harder. We work harder, we work longer hours, we do more to prove our value. Since we don't feel comfortable and confident using our voice in the open room, we hope that by working harder and doing more, we'll get noticed that way. We'll get noticed in a more passive way. And when we do that, we get burnt out. And now we've just created this whole loop of we're back to being frustrated and angry and resentful at work, and all these things are still happening because we're not breaking the pattern. So I want you to think about, how does this pattern impact you? How does it impact your job? How does it impact how you do your job? How does it impact how you feel at work, how you feel about your coworkers, how you're engaged at work? When you're at work and you're in this grind, where's your energy? How engaged and energized and motivated are you feeling to do your job? And then what happens when you're home? What happens when you shift your attention from work duties to home duties, but you've been carrying this negative energy all day that says, I hate this place. They don't listen to me. They don't respect me. They don't value me. And yet here I am grinding it out time after time again. So then when you turn to your home environment, are you able to fully engage at home? What kind of energy are you bringing home? Are you escaping? Are you getting off the work computer but getting on your phone and flipping through the Instagram and playing Candy Crush? Are you getting on Netflix and binging? Are you just frustrated because now you have to make dinner and clean the house and take care of things, and now you're venting anger out on everybody else because nobody is helping you and supporting you these days? And that's not a judgment, that's a statement. It's real. The one thing that also typically comes out, I don't know if the McKinsey study covers this, but there's another one I know that does, that I track annually also, that covers the fact that women typically spend upwards of 20 hours a week in the unpaid work. Household chores, grocery shopping, things we need to do to live. We still spend 20, I think it's for every 3 hours a man spends, we spend 19 doing unpaid work. I believe that's the ratio. All right, so if you don't stop this pattern, if you don't start figuring out when and where you're going to speak up and how, where will you be 3 months from now? Where will you be a year from now? Will you continue to go to bed on Sundays dreading Monday? It's terrible for your sleep, by the way. And sleep is like the number one thing we need to do for just rejuvenation and self-care. So, what does it cost you not to speak up? It costs you your trust in yourself, because it's your voice you're not using. It's your opinions you're not trusting. It's your knowledge, your experience, and your intuition that you are not trusting or sharing with the rest of the world. It will cost you your career goals, because you can't be seen and heard, and you will not progress if you're not using your voice. It will cost you your peace of mind, because here's the thing I know we all do. All right? And I want you to drop a Y in the chat for yes, if you do this. If you don't do this, fine. There will be no Ys. But if you do this, here's what it costs us when I talk about peace of mind. What happens is we walk out of a meeting or a conversation where we know we should have said something and we were itching to say the thing and we didn't. What do? We ruminate. Do you ruminate? If you ruminate, drop a Y in the chat. We replay that scene in our head 1,000,000 times, and we replay it 2 different ways. We replay it the way we did, where we didn't say anything, and then we beat ourselves up because I wish I had said something. Or we replay it with the new scenario of, if I had said something, here's how this could have played out, and next time I'm going to say it better. We spend energy in our head replaying scenes that we wish we had done differently because we wished we had used our voice. We wish we had said something. I got one yes, and I know there's more than that, because holy cow. Ladies, I know rumination is a real thing that we do. One of the first things we do when we walk away for something we're not satisfied with is we replay it, and then over and over again. Yes. Yeah, you're right, Joyce. Eventually, yeah, you leave work at the end of the week, thank God for the weekend, but you're already dreading what's going to happen come Monday. Absolutely. This peace of mind, by the way, also ruins your health and your relationships. If you can't sleep and you're always ruminating on work, to Jackie's point where she just said you spend all weekend thinking about it. If you're spending all weekend thinking about something that happened at work, are you present to enjoy your family, your friends, your weekend, your dog, right? Any of that? You're not. Your head is somewhere else. Your energy is somewhere else, and it is depleting you. So, when you think about yourself, your trust in yourself, your career goals, your peace of mind, your health, your relationships, what are those things worth to you? Are they worth the momentary discomfort of speaking up. So here's how you got to do it. Here's how we're going to do it. Because here's the thing. I'm going to give you 1, 2, yeah, I have notes. 1, 2, sue me. I wanted to not forget things. 3, I kind of have 4 things here. I'm going to tell you right now, the number one thing is the most important. The number one thing is the most important thing to get you to speak up. And that is, you need to ground yourself into who you are. You need to know who you are. Who you are, what you believe, what are your values, what's important to you. When you can ground into yourself, who you are as a person, like as a human being, you ground into who you are as a leader. When you can reconnect with you and what's important to you, you can reconnect with who you are as a leader. So whatever it takes you to do that. So here's the thing. If you ladies think about your values, some of you have a very high value for achievement, for example, for getting things accomplished and done and scoring high and making all the points. Awesome. Achievement is a great value. Some of you might have a value around connection with people and making sure that people are comfortable and you're connecting with them and you're building relationships. Fantastic. Some of you might have a value around, trying to think of other values that would apply in a work conversation, collaboration. You might have a high value on making sure everybody's coming around the table and we're all working together. Whatever your values are, that's what you want to grind into, because your goal is to have a conversation that's aligned with your values. If you are speaking true to your own integrity, you will never regret what comes out of your mouth. But you have to do that first. You have to do that first. So whether that's a moment you take before you open your mouth where you just take 3 deep breaths, right? Breathe. Remember who you are. Remember what's important to you. Now speak from there. If you know a meeting is coming up or a presentation is coming up and you're preparing for that and you have more time, you might consider listening to music. You might consider meditating before the meeting or in the morning. You might go get a pep talk. Like literally call your BFF, call your coach or your mentor, but go get a pep talk to put your mind in the right frame to say, this is who I am, this is what I believe, this is why I'm saying what I'm saying. If it's like in the moment you're in the meeting and you realize you have something to say, take a deep breath or 2 or 3. Reset your mind to the framework of this is what's important to me. You might get a mantra because you can say the mantra in your mind a couple of times too. So if there's a mantra around, I trust myself, I know myself, this is what I believe. I trust in my value of collaboration. I'm going to speak up in favor of a more collaborative solution to this problem. Right? Develop a mantra that has one of your value words in it, so that's what you are holding yourself to when you use your voice. That's the number one thing, to collect and light the fire of your self-confidence, is to know yourself. So that's number 1. Number 2, this is almost as important actually. I said number 1 was the most important, and it is. But number 2, you have to believe you have the right to speak up, which goes hand in hand with the confidence, right? You have to have the confidence to speak up, but you have to believe that you have the right to speak up. You have a contribution to make. You have an idea to share. You have value. You have an opinion to raise. It's irrelevant whether your opinion is in line with everyone else's in the room, as long as your opinion is in line with your values. You might be raising your voice to ask a question. You might be using your voice to agree, or to give a dissenting opinion, or to present an idea or a plan. What's the goal? You have the right to use your voice. You have to believe that. If you can understand why you're using your voice in that moment, it might help you speak up more. So I have the confidence in myself. I know that my value is important to me. I know that in this moment it's important for me to speak up because maybe I need clarity. You know, John, I hear your opinion on the situation. Let me make sure I understand. And you ask questions for clarity. And in asking those questions, you can also voice an opinion. You can share, well, here's my perspective on this, so tell me why I'm wrong, right? You have to be willing to let yourself be open to the feedback. But there's a whole bunch of reasons why. And really, when we open our mouths, it's not to put our stake in the ground of, this is it, damn it, and I'm right and you're wrong. If we're doing that, that's a whole other communication workshop we should do, right? We're not necessarily opening our mouths to lay down the law. We are opening our mouths to voice an opinion, to share an idea, to ask a question. But there's a why behind it. So if we can keep behind whatever we say clarity and curiosity, then we win. Because the curiosity is, well, here's how I came to my opinion and my idea. How did you get to yours? If we can understand what the other person's really communicating, we can be very flexible around how much of their opinion and idea we do agree with or don't. Or we can figure out how we work the two together for more collaboration. But behind opening our throat and speaking with confidence is the willingness to be curious and to ask for clarity when we don't have it. So you have to believe you have the right to use your voice. And in having the right to use your voice, you have the right to be curious and you have the right to ask for clarity. And the same techniques apply, right? Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. What am I being curious about right now? What do I need clarity about right now? Use a mantra if that helps. But you want to get clear. Are you opening your throat to persuade, to ask a question, to contribute, to help? Know the motivation behind why. You know your why because you know what your integrity is. You know what your values are. You know what's important to you. Now understand why that is. Why in this moment am I speaking up? And you stick to that. What happens when we do that? When we understand the why, right? I need more clarity, or I have this opinion and here's how I got to it. We're able to put a little bit of distance between ourselves and the other person and ourselves and the word, so that when somebody disagrees with us, somebody has a dissenting opinion, it's not personal. It's not about who we are as a person. It's about this idea I'm putting forward. It's about this question I've asked. It's not about my value as a human being. I've already established that I have value and I deserve to be here. I've already established that here are my values and I have confidence in, and this is where I'm speaking from. So let me understand where you're speaking from. So the third step is trust your resilience. The judgment of others, positive or negative. There's a rule around that. Do you know what it is? What's the rule around other people's opinion of you? I know y'all know what it is. There's a rule. When it comes to other people's opinion of you, there's a rule. None your business. It's not any of your business what they think of you, positive or negative, whether they think you are the most brilliant person they've ever met or they think that you have no idea what you're talking about. What they think of you is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. It's none of your business what they think. You have a job to do. You have a mission to accomplish. You have a goal to achieve. That's your business. If there is, you open your mouth and there is negative fallout, you'll manage through it. A negative fallout does not nullify the fact that you had the right to speak up. Just because you open your mouth and you give an opinion and it turns out that you are 100% dead wrong, doesn't matter. Does not mean you did not have the right to speak up. What it means is you just clarified for other people in the room that if they were thinking along your same lines, they also didn't have full information, which is why we need clarity, which is why we need to be curious, right? Just because you're wrong, or just because you make a mistake, or just because the backlash, even if you're not wrong, but there's a backlash, it does not negate the fact that you had the right to speak up. That can be a really hard thing to hold on to when we're feeling the backlash. People are mad at us, or people are sad, or people are frustrated. It's, we've just made things complicated. We've just become difficult. Doesn't negate the value of the fact that you deserve to speak up. We have to be okay with not having all the answers. We have to be okay with occasionally being wrong. Speaking up and using your voice, and the power behind speaking up and using your voice, it isn't about being right. It is not about being right. I want you to think about all the times these incredibly powerful leaders use their voices, and they're wrong. And they're wrong. Jeff Bezos, Amazon, Elon Musk, Tesla, and the mission to Mars, and all that, they've all said dumb things. They've all been really wrong about things they've predicted. They are still incredibly influential and powerful people. So is Oprah, if we're going to talk about women, right? There are men and women leaders both. It's not about being right. It is about using your voice, though. Doesn't nullify you if you're wrong. The fourth part, this is the more tactical part about kind of speaking with power and confidence. When you are presenting an idea, one of the things that we do that undermines us, we speak really fast. Now, this is not entirely our fault, but a lot of times, especially in a meeting, if we're presenting an idea, we've got something to say, we jump in and we speak really fast, and we've got to get it all out because we have all these ideas in our head that we need to share. And remember, there's a 34% chance we're going to be interrupted. So we try to cram everything in, because if they could just hear all the idea, the full picture all at once, they would finally get it and they would finally listen. And that actually has the exact opposite effect of what we want. The minute we start speaking so quickly and cramming it all in and throwing in all the ideas and all the points we wanted to make and putting it all together, we sound disorganized. We sound a little bit chaotic. We actually sound like we don't know what we're talking about. So especially if you're presenting, if you're delivering an idea or an opinion, slow yourself down. It's okay if you don't get it all out. They're allowed to ask questions, which you can then answer. But slow your speech down. More important for you to be heard clearly around the main idea and then follow up with the supporting stuff than to try to cram everything in and have them look at you and go, we have no idea what you were trying to say. Because that is the perfect opportunity for that mansplainer to come in and appropriate your ideas. Other little things that we do. We don't even think about it, but I want you to count how many times you say, I'm sorry, in a day. I'm sorry, but. Excuse me, but. I know I'm new, but. I know you have more experience at this, but. We put these qualifiers in, and we think we're being softer. We think we're being a little generous. We think we're allowing some room for the other person so that they'll listen to us more, and it's doing the opposite. It is setting us up to sound like, I don't really know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to say something anyway. Listen for the qualifiers that you put out there. It is much more powerful to say, John, I need 10 minutes of your time, rather than saying, I'm sorry, John, but could I have 10 minutes? You're asking for the same thing. You're asking for 10 minutes, but you're asking for it in two very different ways. So when you speak with power, it also means listening. And listening to feedback. It is okay to say, I have to think about that and I'll get back to you. It's okay not to have all the answers. It is okay to say, I don't know that right now. Let me look into that. You look far more prepared and resourceful when you can say that than if you look like you're making up something on the spot. Because we can tell, we all know, we all see people do it. We've done it ourselves and we will continue to do it sometimes. We see other people do it all the time. They're asked a question, they got that momentary deer in the headlights, and then they're scrambling, and then something comes out of their mouth, and you don't know if you can trust it. Far more powerful to say, it's a good question. Let me look into that and I will get back to you. The other thing to keep in mind when you're listening for feedback, not all feedback is equal and not all feedback is valid. So learn how to sift through what's really important for you to pay attention to and what you can kind of throw out the window. You know, then I always talk about Queen Elizabeth I, not the second who just passed, but the first, whose response to every marriage proposal was, thank you very much. I will take it under consideration. and then she never married. Not all feedback is valid. We do not have to jump in response to every criticism everybody passes our way. Okay, so what did I say? I said ground yourself into your own core of who you are. That's where your self-confidence comes from, knowing who you are, what your values are, and what's important to you. Tack on top of that, you have the right to speak. That's point number 2. You have the right to speak. You need to believe that you have the right to speak, and what will help you with that is staying curious and looking for clarity. You have to trust your resilience. You will survive. No one has literally died of embarrassment, and there's very few things you're going to say that's going to create that level of embarrassment anyway. No one in the room is judging you half as harshly as you are judging yourself. And 4, when you speak with power, you speak slowly, you speak deliberately, you speak thoughtfully. You get rid of all those qualifiers that say, well, I know you know more about this than me, but I know you're busy, but all of those go away. A 5th thing you could do, if this is truly a toxic problem in your environment, right, in your work environment, you could take formal action. You could go talk to HR about a situation where you are not able to voice your opinion, you are not able to do your job. If it's truly hindering your ability to be successful in your job, there is the opportunity to talk to HR and have a formal conversation. Most women don't pursue that route because they're concerned about follow-up consequences, but that is an option. So I hope, ladies, you found this helpful. I want you to remember those 4 points. You need to trust your own confidence, so you need to go find that core of yourself. You need to remind yourself you have the right to speak. You are resilient, and you have tools and tips for how to speak with power. And if you would like the cheat sheet I have on speaking with power, drop the word, drop cheat sheet into the chat, and I will send you the communication misfires cheat sheet, which I think outlines 8 misfires, maybe 7 misfires that we do. Kind of common vocal habits that we do that we don't even hear half the time, but that actually do undermine us. So that is how we're going to speak up even if we don't want to. And it comes down to remembering, for all the negative stuff that we outlined in the beginning, at the end of the day, we do not change our environment, we don't change our career path, we don't change how we view ourselves as leaders unless we do speak up. Using our voices, regardless of the outcome, positive or negative outcome, regardless of the outcome, using our voices is one of the most powerful tools we can use to be seen as a leader. Like I said, think about all the leaders who say all the dumb stuff on the news all the time, and yet they're still viewed as leaders. Why? Because they speak up, because they're willing to grab the mic and put an opinion out there. They're willing to take a stand. And we're resilient enough to withstand any position we take and change our minds. You're allowed to do that. All right. Thank you for joining me tonight for Training Tuesday. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. I don't remember now what the next topic is, but I am going through the topics that were in that survey because a lot of them ranked pretty high. And keep your eyes open for the workshop on work-life balance and boundaries. Probably next week I'll figure out a date and I'll be announcing that, but that'll be a lot of fun. All right. Happy Training Tuesday, my friends. Thank you for joining me tonight, and I will see you next week.